Hey, welcome to Dynasty Compass. On this week's episode, we are going to talk about the Fantasy Football Expo that happened this past weekend in Canton, Ohio, and I'll reveal the three biggest pieces of wisdom that I gained from being there. All next on Dynasty Compass. Welcome to another episode of Dynasty Compass. I am your host, Jeff Blaylock, also known as the other Jeff B from Footballguys. It is Wednesday, August 13th as I record this episode, and I've just returned to Albuquerque from Canton, Ohio, where I attended this weekend's Fantasy Football Expo. It's my first time going, and I can tell you it was a great time. I'm so glad I went, and I'll get to some of that in just a moment. But first, let's get our bearings. Let's start with James Cook, running back of the Buffalo Bills. And he just signed a 4-year, $48 million extension with $30 million guaranteed. That is the most guaranteed money for a running back within the last 5 years, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. This contract extension officially ends Cook's hold-in, but unlike a number of high-profile contract impasses we've seen in recent years, this one never really got negative. He's been in camp. He's been around his teammates. He even participated in practices before August 3rd. Now, yesterday, August 12th, he returned to practice saying that things have changed, and indeed they have. Now, Cook was the running back 8 in PPR scoring last season, and obviously a contract like this is an indicator that he will maintain a very large, probably 3-down role for the Bills going forward this season. But I do have concerns about his volume. He had 623 touches combined over the last 2 seasons, including the playoffs. That puts him in the range of what I like to call the scourge of 600. We typically see drop-offs for running backs in that number of touches and that with that kind of volume. So a little bit of concern for him this year, but definitely not long-term. He is now locked up with a tremendous offense in Buffalo for years to come. Very valuable as a dynasty asset. Going out to L.A., quarterback Matthew Stafford is still ailing. He has aggravated a disc in his back. And if you've ever done that, you know that it is really about pain management, and it's tough to manage. He is still missing practice despite a projected return earlier this week. Now, Sean McVay originally described this as a maintenance issue, but there's no real timeline for his return, although they do believe he will be ready for week 1. The Rams are still acting like they're not particularly concerned about the situation, but should dynasty managers. Now, I am not so much worried about Stafford in week 1. I think he'll be ready and he'll play, but I'm more worried about him later in the season. This type of injury is all about pain management, but it also carries with it a fairly high risk of re-injury and aggravation. So the move here, I think, would be to stash Jimmy Garoppolo, who I believe is a better backup than most people are giving him credit for. He did have that one particularly brilliant season in New England, stepping in for Tom Brady. Hasn't done a whole lot since then, but he is in an offense that he can certainly make work. And I wouldn't be fading the Rams wide receivers right now. I'm seeing a lot of that in redraft leagues and redraft analysts. I think that's fine for that. But from a dynasty standpoint, I would not fade them at all. Now, staying in L.A., lad McConkey has returned to practice. This is his first 11-on-11 drills, which he did yesterday, Tuesday the 12th. The first 11-on-11 drills he's participated in since July 28th, when he left with an undisclosed lower body injury. In practice yesterday, McConkey said, quote, "I'm good." And that's what we're going to have to go with. Now, during that absence, McConkey's absence from practice, the team did bring Keenan Allen back. Allen had 70 catches for 744 yards while he was in Chicago. Now, so I'm not as concerned about McConkey with respect to Allen, but I am concerned about some of the other wide receivers in L.A. Trey Harris has reportedly been struggling in camp, and he was a complete non-factor in his first preseason game. He played on 28 snaps, including 5 of 6 of the first position, had 1 target and 0 catches. And he seems to be battling drops in training camp. Now, I think we've seen this movie before where we've had a Chargers rookie wide receiver who's battled drops in training camp and come through to disappoint fantasy managers for not just the next season, but the next couple of seasons. Now, I wouldn't panic on this yet, But I also wouldn't be eager to go out and get Trey Harris and pay full price for him if I were looking to put him on my roster. What you could do, though, is pick up fifth-round rookie Keandre Lambert-Smith if you could do so very cheaply. He's generating a lot of buzz, but so do a lot of day three rookies who won't end up being fantasy relevant when the final 53-man roster comes along. So if you can get him for cheap or for nothing and you've got a taxi squad spot available, Keandre Lambert-Smith is not a bad pickup. And we'll do a bonus today because we've got a little bit of extra news that running back Alexander Mattison of Miami is out for the season. He suffered a neck injury in practice this week, and while he is expected to recover fully, he's been placed on season-ending injured reserve. Now, Mattison was vying to be the Dolphins' short yardage back and was reportedly having a terrific training camp. He was brought in part because of concerns over Devon Achane's ability to convert short yard situations. These are concerns that I share, but not enough to lower Achane in my rankings. He remains a very highly ranked player. I'll put on the graphic exactly where I have him ranked right now. I've not moved him because of these short yard situation concerns. But what Madison's absence does do is it removes a key obstacle to rookie Ollie Gordon. But Miami has added veterans Aaron Shampkin and Mike Boone to the roster, so there's still a fair number of running backs in the mix for that number 3 spot behind Jalen Wright. Now, neither Shampkin nor Boone is really worth a pickup, and Gordon is another player to just stash on the taxi squad for right now. He would need an injury to a couple of the main backs, at least one of them, to become fantasy relevant this season, and if he makes the team at all coming out of training camp. All right, as I mentioned, I just got back from the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio. This is an annual event that brings the fantasy community together, from content creators to enthusiasts to app developers and all of the folks that make fantasy football the outstanding pursuit that it is. So I have a few observations to start with. First of all, there's just so much energy and excitement for the upcoming seasons. It's energizing to be around people who are so passionate about something that I am also passionate about. It was wonderful seeing everyone who I've followed on Instagram or on Twitter or on YouTube, whose podcasts I've watched, people whose advice has really helped me out over the years. It was really amazing to be able to see these folks in 3 dimensions. The only drawback to that for me is I realized just how much shorter than all these people I am. It seemed like no one was under 6 feet tall except for me. So I'm very thankful that Footballguys hired me before they saw that I wasn't as tall as everybody else. But I do have one caution. If you want to come to the expo, there is something that you should know, particularly folks who are very sensitive about personal space or don't like being handled. This isn't your event. I am not kidding when I say this is the huggiest group of people that I've ever been around. And as someone who is a hugger myself, that works perfectly for me. But if you happen to not like that, this is going to be a really uncomfortable 3 or 4 or 5 days for you if you go to Canton next year. But everybody is friendly. You get to meet so many people. You get to have some fanboy moments or fangirl moments and just great opportunities to connect. Some of the events, things got really loud because they were more like party atmospheres. It's a little harder to talk, but I had lots of opportunities to have quiet moments with a number of people. And so that was just, to me, the best part was the people and the opportunities to connect and to have conversations and to deepen relationships that have started online and have now moved into what the kids call the real world. I also got to meet a few folks who are in leagues with me that I've only known off of Twitter and other social media. So really good to be around those kinds of guys. There's also a lot of really cool things coming in the fantasy space, in the app world. And there were 3 in particular that really caught my attention. One of those is an app called Gritty. Now, this is a free app that lets you draft teams based not only on the talent of the players, but also on their connections to each other. It's kind of a puzzle. You have to move these players as you draft them around your board so that you can maximize the number of connections between them. The only knock on that is I couldn't get the guys to actually do the gritty dance, but maybe they'll work on that for the next expo, because that to me seems to be kind of an obvious thing. Second app I got really excited about is something called Lightning Leagues. They have lots of built-in support for some of what I would call the more exotic formats that are probably new to many people in the fantasy space. Things like Guillotine and Vampire Leagues. And to leagues where you actually can only draft from half the player pool. This is a really great group of guys. They happen to be in the booth next to Footballguys, so I got to see them a lot this weekend. So be on the lookout for the Lightning Leagues guys. The third one that really caught my attention is something called Prop Decks. This is an app that lets you build a team of 6 players, I believe. You build a team just for 1 week, so it's similar to Daily Fantasy Sports or DFS, but you receive your fantasy points based on the player reaching a stat line. And here's the rub. You select the stat line. You set it. If the player hits it, you get the points. If they don't hit it, you don't get the points. The higher the line you set, the more points you can get. But of course, the higher risk that you get a 0. So it's a really neat combination of DFS and sports betting, but you don't have to do the actual betting. They're very cool dudes, and it's a great idea. And before I move on, I do want to say that none of those comments I just made are sponsored. I don't have any commercial or other relationships with those guys, other than the fact that I met them this weekend and was impressed with what they brought to the expo. They impressed me as entrepreneurs. They're great people, and they have really cool product ideas. So check those out. Those are just some of the examples of the things that you get exposed to when you go to an event like the expo. And I'm really excited about those and some of the other products that I saw out there. I got a chance to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which of course is also in Canton, which is why Canton is the site of the expo. And while it was really great getting to do that, I was a bit underwhelmed by the whole experience there. I guess I was expecting more of a museum kind of experience where there was a lot of veneration and curated displays, a lot of artifacts, and more of the stories about those artifacts. And instead, it was kind of more of a corporatized, designed by committee feel. In particular, the way the busts are displayed. So this is the centerpiece of the entire Hall of Fame. It is the busts of all the players who've been enshrined into it. The way they were displayed, in my estimation, kind of cheapened them. They were on, these glowing white shells with these glass nameplates that were hard to read, and they were bathed in this very harsh, cool white lighting from beneath. And it just, I don't think it's the best way to display bronze figurines. I would choose warmer lighting. I would have it coming down from above, such as what you would see for sculptures in fine art museums. These are sculptures. They are fine art. And to me, they just aren't being displayed in a way that really shows the respect and veneration for them. I'm not saying they're being disrespected. It's just not the way I would display them. I'm sure there are other folks who would tell you that it was the most spectacular thing that they've ever seen. And that's fine. We'll just have to agree to disagree. We in the fantasy industry get to say that an awful lot, that we will be disagreeing. But that aside, it was a bucket list thing for me to do. I've always wanted to go to the Hall of Fame. And I'm glad that I got to see it, got to be on the grounds, got to see it with some friends of mine. And probably my favorite thing of the entire weekend, hands down, I've already said meeting the people was a favorite, and it's specifically being with some of my Footballguys colleagues and just getting to spend a lot of good time with them. They're a great group. I'm immensely lucky to be one of them, to be part of that family, and it's just great to be able to spend some quiet moments with about 20 or so of my colleagues who were able to make it to the expo. So bottom line, if you're on the fence, if you didn't go and you're on the fence of going this year, or you've seen social media posts from me and from other people who are at the expo, and you thought to yourself, wow, that's something I'd really like to do, it ought to do that, then just go ahead and make it a priority for next year. I understand that the expo next year will be July 24th through 26th. So go ahead and mark those calendars. I also don't have a commercial relationship with the expo, but it's a great experience, and I'd love to see you there. If you do see me there, be sure to walk up to me, say hi, greet you, introduce yourself. I will be the guy who looks like me. So as promised, I'm going to give you the 3 best nuggets of wisdom that I got or I heard at the Fantasy Expo this past weekend. And the first of them involves the question we see a lot on social media: who won this trade? You know what it looks like. You see a screen capture of a trade of what one player is getting and what they're giving up. And we're asked to review it and say, who won it? Did side A win? Did side B win? Well, the question, who won this trade, has only one correct answer, and it's both of you. Both trading partners need to come away with value, with the feeling that they have improved their team. Now, an outside observer may disagree with that value equation, but that doesn't matter. You're always wanting to look for trade partners who have what you need. Obviously, that's a given. But you also have something that they need, and you make it a point not just to make yourself better, but to make both of you better, to find a deal that benefits both of you. I heard from several experts that they've had experience in leagues where people have tried to swindle other dynasty managers or other redraft managers, take advantage of their league mates, and it just isn't cool. It doesn't cast you in a good light. Particularly in dynasty or in home leagues where you play with the same folks year after year after year. You want to be kind and you want to earn that reputation for being a mutual problem solver, because that will help with your trade negotiations, but it'll also help with the relationships that you build with the people in your league. And after all, fantasy football is really about the relationships that we have and that we build as we play a game that we all enjoy. The second one is really more of a confirmation of something that I have been saying as a newly minted fantasy analyst and content creator. So it was encouraging to hear so many other more seasoned and established analysts say the same thing. And it's this: if you're interested in becoming a fantasy content creator, find something that's unique, that isn't being served, that isn't being discussed enough, and make that your primary focus. All of us are knowledgeable about fantasy football. That's a given. That's table stakes. All of us can answer start-sit questions, or should I trade this guy for that guy questions. But there are various aspects of dynasty football or any other kind of football in fantasy that aren't being addressed enough. That's your opportunity to jump in there. I mean, I got my start analyzing kick returners for Scott Fishbowl. It's a unique set of rules, a very niche little market, but it was an important little market in terms of people who were paying attention. And so I was able to get noticed talking about kick returners and which kickers you want to start your returners against. Now, earlier in the show, I mentioned guillotine and vampire leagues. These are novel formats for most fantasy players. And so, as you might expect, there aren't very many people talking about these kinds of leagues regularly. So there are lanes right there for content creators to make their mark and get noticed. So make quality content, find a unique voice, be respectful. Don't take cheap shots for clicks. Don't provide ridiculous takes. Just do it right, and the right people will notice. But above all, just start. Speaking of just start, the third piece of wisdom is one that I saw over and over again as well in the expo, and it is to just start a conversation. Just walk up to somebody. Just DM an analyst. Just reach out to league mates in leagues where you're not as connected as, say, a home league where you know everybody. Just start the conversation. Introduce yourself. Talk about what you're passionate about. You can find things that are outside of fantasy football to talk about. I know that Michael Florio of NFL Network and he and I just really hit it off because I live in Albuquerque and his favorite show is Breaking Bad. And so that was a connection that we could make that had nothing whatsoever to do with football. I'm so glad I got a chance to meet him and talk about that. I bet we talked for 30 minutes. I bet 3 of those minutes were actually about football in the upcoming season. So you see personalities on YouTube, you see them on television. Even if you've never heard of this person before, just start that conversation because, again, I'm all about relationships, about building those relationships, and you don't build a relationship if you don't have that conversation. So those are the 3 most important lessons that I either learned or got reinforced at the Expo this weekend, and hearing them many times from many different people suggests that these are, in fact, three of the most important things to be doing as someone either just being a fantasy player, someone who might be interested in becoming a fantasy content creator, or somebody who is already part of the industry. There's plenty of room for everybody in the industry. So let's be nice. Let's support each other. And above all else, let's have fun. So that concludes this week's episode. Next week on Dynasty Compass, we will talk about things that matter from training camp. What is it you should be paying attention to? What's really the news? What's noise? And how should that affect your strategy going forward into the coming season and for Dynasty in subsequent seasons? So we'll see you next week on Dynasty Compass.